Hi guys, and happy 2018. So I am back with another video about planning your trip. I've had a couple of requests to share an updated video about how I store all my information for planning in terms of my spreadsheet that I use and in terms of binders and things like that. So I thought I would give you what is hopefully a pretty quick overview. Now I showed this binder a couple of years ago now. I've not used it for a couple of years, but I had this custom made because I saw like the Disney print online and I just thought it was really cool. I don't remember where I got it from, but I had it custom made. So it says WDW trip on the side. And then on the inside, I have tabs. And then I have tabs for flight and hotel info, schedules, dining reservation, fast pass reservations, miscellaneous, and mousekeeping. And the miscellaneous, I now remember what I did this. The miscellaneous was when we did the Wine and Dine half marathon, so I had race information in that section. The reason I haven't used this in the last couple of years, I have the same information in all of my different things I have here for storing information, I guess, but I've just used different like binders, notebooks, that kind of thing. The reason I haven't used this anymore is because this one was just really big. I saw it online, and I mean, they say like how big it is online, but I couldn't really picture it in my mind, and it just took up a lot of room in my bag for not that much information. So I didn't think it was really necessary. And a lot of the times when we've gone, we've tried to do just carry-ons, and when you do that, every little bit of space is precious. And even when we don't do a carry-on and we do check a bag, we're only gonna check one bag. It's just the two of us. Because if we both check a bag, that's like $100 in just checked bags, because it's $25 for most airlines. It's $25 per bag one way. So that's $100 in checked bags. And I'm like, I just don't think it's necessary for us. So yeah. I love the binder, it was just too big for us. Not that I'll never use it again, but that was the kind of first iteration. I guess I had my own pre-made binder, but it was essentially the same thing. Then I went to this small binder, which was a lot more manageable. These tabs, I believe I had them labeled, and I don't have labels on them anymore, but, oh, I have it upside down. But I also have these page protector things in here. Okay, let me just take this out. Well, you know what it is. It's a page protector. These little pouches, and I put my mousekeeping envelopes in here. The issue with that is sometimes they tend to fall out a little bit. So if you could, you know what I think would work is if you put a little bit of poster putty in here, it just like pinched it shut. I think that would hold it closed quite nicely. But this works really well too. I may use this for the next trip, not sure, because we're doing another race and you just have more information with the races and schedules and things like that. So yes, I've done this as well. And now, oh, I was gonna show you, if you're using a full-size binder, they might make these for little ones too, but I got this pouch from Staples. It's just like a zip pouch, and it's like this plasticky laminated material, and it has holes so that you can put it in a binder. I thought this would be perfect, and this isn't why I have it, but I thought this would be perfect for mousekeeping envelopes. Now, if you're not familiar with mousekeeping envelopes, mousekeeping is Disney's daily housekeeping or maid service, and a lot of people make decorated envelopes prior to their trip and throw a couple of dollars in there for a tip. Now, what is the general tipping amount, I guess you could say, is $1 to $2 per person per day. And people will decorate their envelopes, they'll have their kids decorate the envelopes, and then just put a couple of bucks in there, write mousekeeping on that, and put it in a prominent place like on a table or on the nightstand, like between the beds, and they'll know to take it. I think only once have they not taken ours. Otherwise they've always taken it. But yeah, we will leave them an envelope, and that's perfect because then this seals so you don't have to worry about them falling all over the place. Now, in terms of planning while I'm at home and actually planning everything out, I have used a grid like this for a very long time. And I will give you a closer up version of this because I'm not sure how you're gonna be able to see it on here. But I have the day at the top and then the date. And then along this side, I have AM park, lunch reservation, PM park, dinner reservation, notes, and then fast passes. And then I fill this all in. So I look at the schedule, the park calendars that Disney has out, and I determine which parks we're going to visit when. Now I know I've talked about this ad nauseum, but we never visit a park with PM extra magic hours. And the reason for that is we find, I guess for morning and evening extra magic hours, the portion of the extra magic hours that are closest to the regular park hours, the regular general admission. So in the morning, extra magic hours are from 8 to 9. Say the park opens at 9. The last bit, like closer to 9 o'clock, is busier. And with the PM extra magic hours, the very beginning part, say the extra magic hours are from 9 to midnight, shortly after 9, it's busier, and then it tapers. As people leave, the crowds taper off. And in the beginning, it's in reverse. You have fewer people initially, and then more people are coming. So because of that, we never visit the park with PM extra magic hours because we like to visit the park with morning extra magic hours, and it's very difficult, depending on the time of year. The extra magic hours changes based on crowd predictions and the time of year. So it would be very difficult for me to do PM extra magic hours and then AM extra magic hours because, I mean, sometimes the parks are up until like 2 in the morning. And then to be up and ready to go to the parks and like be there before they open at 8 is, I need more sleep than that. So that's why we don't do, I'm shaking the camera. That's why we don't do PM extra magic hours. AM extra magic hours have been beneficial for us, with the exception this last time, Epcot was not super worth it because Soarin' was down and Test Track was down, and they only have a couple of rides right now that are open for morning extra magic hours, and that's a big part of them. And I can't do Mission Space because I get motion sick, so that was a huge disappointment. Not sure if we're gonna do, I'm not gonna say we're never gonna do Epcot morning extra magic hours anymore, but I don't know. I think Magic Kingdom morning extra magic hours and Animal Kingdom are the best. You really can accomplish a lot. Hollywood Studios, I think it's going to be, Animal Kingdom right now I think is almost necessary because of the Pandora and how popular and busy that's been. And I think when Toy Story Land and then later on when Star Wars Land opens, I think those areas are gonna be so busy that it's gonna be necessary to go to morning extra magic hours as well at Hollywood Studios. Long tangent, I'm sorry. That is why we do the parks the way we do them. Morning extra magic hours, if they have them, and then avoid the park with PM extra magic hours. Now, we also take into consideration if only one park has extra magic hours per day, we kind of take that into consideration because some people get base tickets and don't have park hoppers. So if there are people who plan on spending, say the Magic Kingdom has 3 hours of evening extra magic hours and no park has morning extra magic hours that day, I'm thinking that there are gonna be people with base tickets that want to take part in the evening Magic Kingdom extra magic hours. They're not going to be able to go to another park. So I would expect the Magic Kingdom to be a little bit busier that day. That being said, I would not expect the people who plan on staying until 2 in the morning to be there when they open at 9, but I do kind of take that into consideration a little bit. In planning out where I'm going. And then of course we figure out how many times have we been to each park. We make sure we go to Magic Kingdom the most. Magic Kingdom is our favorite morning park and Epcot is our favorite evening park. And we don't really do a ton of rides in Epcot in the evening. We spend more time in World Showcase. We do some rides, but we just spend more time in World Showcase. But anyway, that's kind of how I go about planning out which parks I'm going to visit. So that's gonna be my first step, is figuring that out. And then I'll put in my AM park and I'll put in my PM park, because we always visit almost always, I guess I shouldn't say always, we almost always visit a different park in the afternoon than we visited in the morning. And we always take a rest and go back to the hotel in the middle of the day. Something to keep in mind, and I always tell my clients this, is, I feel like I'm saying that word a lot, always. What's another word for always? Continually? I'm not sure. I make sure to tell my clients that the park calendars come out between like 6 and 7 months in advance. They will change. I have never seen a park calendar exactly the same when you're actually going as when it was first released. There usually aren't major changes. It's typically like an adjustment to extra magic hours, like adding another hour or taking away an hour or something like that. But it is always a good idea to review them. There's the always again. It's a good idea to review them. You cannot book fast passes for extra magic hours. You can only book them for regular park hours. So keep that in mind as well. So step 1, fill in your parks. Then I pick the restaurants where I'm going to have a lunch reservation. I'm going to have the lunch reservation either at the park I'm visiting in the morning or at a resort that's nearby the park I'm visiting. We have done Disney Springs. I think it was actually Downtown Disney when we did that for a lunch reservation, and it was, we went to Animal Kingdom in the morning for morning extra magic hours, and then we had lunch at Downtown Disney, and that worked okay because that was before Pandora, so we didn't spend as much time at Animal Kingdom. But typically it will be something closer to the park. For example, we've done Animal Kingdom in the morning and then had lunch at, I think it was Sanaa at Animal Kingdom Lodge. Or if we are staying at the Grand Floridian, we will have lunch at the Grand Floridian Cafe, perhaps. So I try not to go very far out of my way so that you don't have to allow as much time for transportation. Now, Disney says allow up to an hour and a half if you're using their transportation to go anywhere on property. Now, if you're at the Magic Kingdom and you're going to the Grand Floridian, they're on the monorail and there's a boat. You don't have to allow an hour and a half. That's a little ridiculous. Maybe 45 minutes. But you have to keep those things in mind too. You have to allow yourself plenty of time. So you don't want to be at a park for a half an hour and then be like, okay, now we have to leave and go to our dining reservation because it's all the way on the other side of property. So I try to make them nearby. Dinner reservations. We often, we usually stay club level. Staying club level, you get appetizers, hors d'oeuvres in the early evening, starting at like 5. So a lot of times we will have that at the hotel and then we'll grab something smaller in the park. So we don't really have a sit down dinner reservation very often. We do sometimes though. So when we have it, I do put that in here. And when I'll have the, if we have a dinner reservation, it's either at our hotel or the park we're visiting. Just like in what we do for our lunch reservation or very nearby. We don't go on the opposite side of property. You know, I'm not going to eat at a boardwalk. If I'm staying at a Magic Kingdom resort, I'm not going to eat dinner at a boardwalk hotel and then go back to the Magic Kingdom in the evening. That just doesn't make sense. That's, you know, that's not a very good use of your time. So that's another thing that I do. And then in these spots, I will write down the restaurant, the time, and the confirmation number. So I have the parks, the dining info, restaurant, time, confirmation number, parks, and dining info. I should say as part of the parks section, I also will put if there's extra magic hours or not. So I'll say like AK-EMH. So I know that means that it's extra magic hours at Animal Kingdom. Then when I go to book fast passes 4 months later, when I go to book fast passes 4 months later, of course I'm gonna recheck the schedule. Like I said, they always change, but then I know, okay, the park, this is the park we're visiting in the morning with extra magic hours, so I know where to book my fast passes. This note section, just random notes that you might need to add, maybe if you're switching hotels or something like that. And then for fast passes. Now, I did not book our fast passes for our next trip, my husband did. I selected which park they should be in and if they should be in the morning or the evening. And we're on the same page as that, so it's not like I made a decision without him or anything, but, and I obviously consult him, but I kind of went through and figured that all out because I had done the rest of this. Like I mentioned before, because you cannot book fast passes during extra magic hours, they can only be booked during regular park hours. I keep in mind where extra magic hours are. If I'm visiting a park with morning extra magic hours, I know we accomplish a lot in that park. So I always will book my fast passes in the PM park that day, which will be in a park that does not have PM extra magic hours. If I am visiting a park that does in the morning that does not have AM extra magic hours, we'll almost always book our fast passes in the AM. And the reason I do that is because then once we've used up those 3, we can go on the My Disney Experience app, or which we don't really like bringing our phones, or go to one of the kiosks and book a fast pass for either the same park after you've used your 3rd or for your afternoon park, evening park. Yes, so if it is a day that there are morning extra magic hours and we're booking our fast passes in the evening, we're only going to use 3 that day, and we know that and we're okay with that. We have done this enough times now where we really know what to select, you know, what we're interested in. You're going to pick the most popular rides. That is kind of a no-brainer because you don't want to wait in line. So yeah, that's how I fill this out. And then on the bottom, if we're doing a split stay and staying at 2 different resorts, I will just draw an arrow and I'll be like, oh, we're staying at French Quarter for this part, and then we're staying at the Contemporary for this part, and we'll write that in. So like I said, I will give you a closer up look of that. Now, the last thing I have to show you, this is not a short video, the last thing I have to show you, and I've talked about this as well, is this little book. And this is what I've used last time and what we will for sure be using next time because we both really liked it. I got this from Barnes & Noble. Now, what I did was I filled out, oh, I still have some pages here. Okay, so I have, oh, and my husband even wrote in here. I didn't know that. Huh. I have Disney World and the dates we're going. Then I have our flight information. I have our, like, arrival and departure flight information. My husband wrote our gate information in there and our seats as well. And then I have the confirmation numbers for those. I like to have things on paper because whenever I have been in like a stressful situation where it's kind of urgent that I get something off my phone, something always goes wrong. I can't find it. My phone's locked up. My battery's dead. I have no service, something. So I always get panicky about that. And it's not even my first instinct to look on my phone. It's to look in paper. So that's why I have that. I also have our rental car information, the pickup time and date, the rental car company and the location, pickup time, return time, confirmation number, all that stuff. So I have that. Then I have our hotel information, the hotel number, the confirmation number, the room, the dates that we're staying there, and if there is a balance due, I have that on here as well. Okay, so then the next page, I dedicated one, and I don't have them in here anymore, and I'll explain why, but I dedicated 1 page per day to our trip. So I put on here, essentially this, I put 1 page per column. I put what we were doing that day, where we're visiting, what time, I believe I even put what time the park opens, if it's if it's extra magic hours or not, lunch reservation, did all of that stuff, and then what time our fast passes were, and I put that all in order as well, because this is not necessarily in order if I have morning fast passes. So I put that all in order. Then what I did, and I was thinking, okay, this might be a little extraneous, turned out to be amazing, and I loved it. On the back, I had a little extra time. So what I did was, on the back, for the days when I knew we were going to be eating at a quick service restaurant, I looked through the menus at allears.net, allears.net, and I looked through their menus and of the quick service restaurants in the park we were going to be visiting where I knew we would want to eat a quick service meal. I looked through them. I mean, I didn't like scan all of them in thorough detail, but I kind of just, glazed through them. And I wrote down the restaurants that I thought I might be interested in. I have kind of a sensitive stomach, so I was like, okay, I want to make sure we don't count on eating somewhere that has something I can't eat, if that makes sense. So I wrote down those restaurants in a very brief description of what they had. I would write pizza or seafood or hot dogs or something like that, or Mexican. That turned out to be so helpful. And that is because I get very hangry. I think part of the H there is not only hungry, but also hot, because we were in August and we often go in August and it is super, super hot and I can't handle heat. So this was a lifesaver, because you can't expect me to think. You know, if my husband says, where do you want to eat? It's not happening. I can't think. Also, I figured out in advance which ones had indoor seating, because if I'm eating quick service for like noon at lunch, I'm not eating outside. At that point, I know I need air conditioning. So I wrote that down on the back of the paper. Then we just ripped out the page and brought just that page with us to the parks every day. And that was awesome, because we didn't have to have something like this in our pockets. We didn't have to have a whole binder. We try to go as minimally as possible. We almost never bring a bag, because then you don't have to go through the bag check line, and that saves a lot of time. And it really isn't necessary to bring, I mean, I don't need to know what I'm doing tomorrow. If I have it planned out in advance, I can look when I go back to the hotel, either in the afternoon or in the evening, and see what I'm doing the next day. So I just like to bring that individual piece of paper. I think that's everything. This was a lot longer than I expected. I apologize. Hopefully we can shorten it up a bit with some good editing. But that is how I go through and I plan and actually use things like this in my binder for our trip to make sure we have the smoothest trip possible. I do the planning in advance. Yes, it might seem extraneous to some people or unnecessarily time consuming. I don't think you have to go through this much trouble, into this much detail, if you don't want to. If you want to be more fly by the seat of your pants, that's totally up to you. It is certainly not a requirement, but that's what we choose to do. So yeah, like I said, I just had some requests to kind of go into a little bit more detail on this. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.